it was not a verbal presentation, everyone had a PowerPoint, but it's my debut, first time I'm presenting, so I have no PowerPoint. But hopefully I can explain to you what is the field lab that we thought present to students, and it's called ONE.COST. So it's basically developed in alignment with the YES, of which Miguel just presented some projects that you can embrace. And this specific project has very, very fine objectives. It's basically done in partnership between professors of NOVA and YES people. And let me jump to that so that you can see our faces, so that this is not so boring. So you're going to have 4 advisors. I wonder which other lab will give you 4 advisors. So it can be a good thing, or it can sound like trouble, right? It's going to be a good thing. So you have one advisor from YES, which is basically this entity that is in the interface between social entrepreneurs and entities, not-for-profit, that develop solutions for social problems, and NOVA syllabus and economics professors that are also interested in studying this phenomenon. So you have these 2 entities. So basically, on the one hand, you have Antonio Miguel. He was supposed to be here, but there was a health issue and he couldn't. And Antonio Miguel is the visible face of this organization that helps social entrepreneurs solve social problems. Okay? And you have 3 faces from NOVA. And don't tell me that's not wonderful. Me, I've changed a bit, my look changed a bit, that's me. Then you have Professor Joana Story, which some of you might know already. Joana is really into social responsibility. And we also have Maria João Major, and Maria João is a professor of accounting, qualitative accounting. And why did we put these 3 people together to work with you on ONE.COST? Because I am embracing not-for-profit marketing. Joana is embracing, again, social responsibility, and Maria João Major is interested about the costs of social problems. Okay? So, now that you know our faces, and I think that helps, with the exception of Miguel. Okay. Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to create a team of students that are going to try to access or measure social problems costs. We want to help the several actors in the marketplace, or the several actors that interact with each other to solve real social problems, by creating a common language. And what is the common language? It's, for example, the ability to say to a for-profit corporation that wants to help and finance, for example, in different ways, can be financial and non-financial ways, to solve social problems and interact with other entities, like, for example, social entrepreneurs that start their activities in order to solve a social problem that, for example, the public sector is not being able to solve. Okay? So the idea is, if we come up with a common language about the measures, in the sense that if we are able, for example, as an output of this work, to say how much does it cost per year a homeless person? How much a homeless person costs financially and non-financially. So the measurement of this cost has to be about the financial costs of it, as well as the non-financial costs. And you have, at the individual level, many costs, obviously, and you also have for society many other costs. So we are talking about how can we actually access the costs of intangible phenomena, which are social problems. And so what we are thinking, the way we thought about building this, and let me jump into that already, is the following. I mean, this, not this one. Sorry, it looks too much. Don't feel intimidated by it. I don't know how I'm going to convince you not to feel intimidated by it. Here it is. So basically what we want to do is we have three main objectives. The first one is to identify what social problems there are. I mean, if you start doing it, it's going to be an infinite list. But we want to identify major social problems, primary, most impactful, biggest, for four different areas of our society. And we want one student per area to develop this work. So we are looking for 4 students. One that is going to look for social problem assessment in health. Another one that is going to go for social problems in education. Like, for example, students that drop out school, how much does it cost at different levels? Social protection and employment, goes without saying, in terms of examples I've seen, and professional training. And so we're going to have 4 students that are going to be coached by the professors from Nova and by Miguel from Liège, in the sense that there will be a common ground at the beginning, and then they will have to go deep into each sector separately. So each one individually is going to have a sector separately, and in the end they'll come together for recommendations for Liège. Okay? So basically we want to start by describing what is there. So we're going to look for typologies. Okay? Secondly, identify and analyze existing methodologies that are already used, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel, already used by similar entities that try to do the same thing, in order to understand which are the best methodologies for each of the areas. So you're going to have, in practice, you're going to have a first step, which is to look and describe, to look at and describe what is there in the sectors that are social problems, that are important. Then, not only describe you by using secondary sources, but then you're going to contact, and we have all the network already, contact similar entities from Liège that already do that, and you're going to benchmark their best practices. After doing that, what we want to do is to have the findings presented in terms of best practice and validate those with interviewing people that are really engaged in the sector in Portugal. Okay? So basically what we're going to do is you're going to have our help to do a literature review on what is a social problem. Then you're going to have our help to benchmark with existing organizations that already develop databases with social costs. And finally, you're going to have our help in order to interview people embedded in the social problems in Portugal in order for them to feedback onto the possibility of adjusting and adapting and implementing here those best practices. Okay? Another thing I must tell you, so I think you have to be aware that you have 2 stakeholders. So you have Nova SBA professors that want rigor, and you have also Yes, Miguel, which is representing Yes, which wants pragmatic recommendations, applicable, usable. Okay? So you have these 2 things. But the coaching that we are planning to do is going to be intense, that is frequent. So we want to coach you into doing this. We're not going to let you on your own. And I think this is a very important thing for labs. Okay? And so how are we designing it? In terms of evaluation, so I think this is important, you're going to have 3 main steps. The first one, here, the literature review, is going to be a group work. So you're going, because you have a common ground, a social problem, and the dynamics before and after, you're going to have a common literature review. Then you have to start your own individual stage, which is basically a sector analysis. If you are analyzing the health sector, you're going to have a sector analysis, which is health analysis. And then you're going to benchmark international best practices in health, as an example. Okay? And finally, you'll have to come together and make your final recommendations to Yes. And this is going to be, again, a group work. So you're going to have to work as a group in your research, to develop your individual research, and then to come together to make sense in terms of main recommendations for an organization like yours. And you ask me, why should we bother with all these? And the reason is because ultimately this is the first step for building a database that will allow any entity, a public entity, a private entity, a social entrepreneur, maybe you want to solve one of the big social problems there are, go to the database and check what is the cost of this social problem that I really want to solve. And with this information, you can go to a for-profit organization and say, hey, don't you want to help me solve this problem? Look, this is the cost. And I can give you some accountability about it because we really know, and we mapped with our best international benchmarks, how to go about solving this, considering the costs for you. And probably a for-profit company is interested in financial costs. But let's say a public sector entity that is actually trying to solve some social problems, let's say health issues, health problems. For them it's also extremely valuable to understand and use this database in order to suggest specific actions in order to solve a specific social problem, okay? So I think basically I've said what are the most fundamental aspects. So you know the team, we are 4, so 3 academic and 1 person that is really into it. So you have a lot of coaching of a knowledgeable person. This person will give access to anything you need in Liège, namely the library they have, and if you need to interview anyone, they will also help you on that. Because sometimes in labs you are on your own looking for resources, looking for access to data, and we will coach you on that and facilitate you on that. For the literature review and for the secondary data analysis for the sector, don't worry too much about it, because Sean Story, which is our head librarian, is also available to help you on doing that. And I think I said the most important aspects about this field lab, which is, again, how to access, measure social problems in Portugal, in 4 big, very important areas. Do you have any questions? No? Everything was that clear?
No PowerPoint needed.
Okay, thank you so much for your
Thank
attention.
We have Professor Miguel Munhoz Duarte with Innovation and Entrepreneurship Projects.